Hi, I'm Carrie Hunter, and I work in corporate communications at FMC Technologies. My campaign involves a real situation which is unfolding at the company that I love and serve. FMC Technologies, or FMCTI, is an oil and gas equipment and service provider with operations in 17 countries and employing approximately 17,000 employees worldwide. FMC Technologies CEO John Graham grew up with the company, having served in increasingly progressive roles for 40 years, starting as a financial analyst in 1975. His vision and his passion for the company and the employees are evident. And as the chief executive, he has created a unique and admirable company culture. Employee satisfaction, collaboration, and transparency have been strong internal values during John's tenure. John's successor will be company president and COO Doug Ferdehert, who has been with the company only 3 years. Doug was promoted to president last year, and some employees have openly expressed concern about how the company will change when John retires. Because of the impending change of leadership, some employees have already begun to leave the company. The situation at FMCTI may not seem like a crisis, but it has the potential to seriously change the makeup of our employee demographic and adversely affect company culture. The CDC defines issues management communication as a question that has simply generated interest, and risk communication as giving information about something expected, which may have an adverse outcome. So this campaign is considered a risk communication campaign, which will address the trend of competent employees leaving the company because of a fear of leadership transition, and will also share some practical solutions for stemming the mass exodus and for addressing employee uncertainty about how the company will change over the coming years. The target audience for this campaign is the employee base at FMC Technologies, from the manufacturing shop floor to the C-suite, because a change in company leadership will affect every employee. We must formulate a change management plan in advance of the change in top leadership at the company. A well-crafted plan will minimize the adverse effect of a CEO change, in that a plan will make use of employee cooperation to be more successful when it comes to organizational change. Early communication about an upcoming change will show employees that there is transparency in the process, and it will also provide some direction for writing the plan and for gaining employee buy-in. A solid plan and early support from employees will be keys to the successful leadership change. Organizational change is not always welcomed by employees. A body of research suggests that major change within a company can increase employee resistance to change, reduce employee performance motivation, and can negatively affect employee alliance to the company. At FMC Technologies, employees are generally content and they have respect and trust for leadership. Our C-suite staff are frequently in the company of employees. Leadership sometimes eat in the employee lounges. They will speak freely with employees in the elevators and parking structures. They basically don't go out of their way to avoid employees in public spaces. Company leaders also know firsthand that a leadership change is causing some concern within the company. As evidence of this, at a recent town hall meeting, an employee asked CEO John Graham when he would be retiring. John responded by telling the employee and the entire audience that he wasn't prepared to retire anytime soon. But employees know that the company charter states that the CEO must retire at 65, and John is 64. To prevent an impending exodus, company leadership must address these open concerns directly and preemptively. I want to talk a little bit about the culture at FMC Technologies. The culture is very inclusive and focused on collaboration and information sharing. The powerful culture at FMCTI can actually bring people together who would otherwise feel disconnected in order to embrace a leadership change. The reverent leadership style will also assist in persuading employees that the future CEO is just as aligned with company culture as is the current CEO. Another unique aspect of the company's culture is the propensity to promote from within. And part of the change communication plan should include elements of natural succession, which is possible for any employee, but which also includes executive leadership. The bottom line for successful organizational change is that leadership must be visible and available. A company as large as FMC Technologies could not expect to survive without strong leadership. And although a strong leader is already in place, John needs to properly introduce and tout the next leader, Doug Ferdehert. Doug has a decidedly different personality than John, and he does not have the tenure or investment in the company that John has. The risk communication plan will show that as John begins to share the platform with Doug, the employees will become more comfortable with Doug, and he won't seem like an outsider. Leaders can change the uncertainty held by employees by affecting conversations about the future of the organization. Like John, for example, can talk about FMCTI's current greatness, while also sharing his vision for a better organization under Doug's leadership. A cohesive communication plan with Doug and John's input could introduce an enhanced version of current company culture, which research shows can work to enrich leadership vision and generate enfranchisement of company employees. Let me address the potential for mass exodus. A current trend exists at FMCTI where employees have been voluntarily resigning. We know that employee exodus occurs for a variety of reasons, the most frequent of which is organizational change. We also know that a majority of employees who voluntarily resign are leaders and are skilled and valuable employees. When high potential employees exit the company, there tends to be an alteration to the leadership landscape of an organization. It could be that higher level employees are also likely to be closer to the company leadership and may from experience lack confidence in the next leader. Or it could be that employees simply become cynical about the change because they lack trust and the motives of the CEO's successor. Cynical employees are more prone to exit the company rather than stay where they perceive uncertainty and unreliability in a leader. And unfortunately, in the past 60 days, 6 valued high-level employees have voluntarily left the company, and the possibility for more resignations is very real. At every company, employees have an expectation that their skills and services are valuable, and therefore their needs should be reasonably met. One study found, in fact, that employees expect to be consulted before an organizational change occurs. Employees just expect that their commitment to company vision and values will be recognized, and that their ideas and concerns will be heard. Notwithstanding these employee perceptions, leadership promotion of the organizational change will substantially increase employee buy-in and will reduce resistance and employee ambivalence. Obviously, it isn't possible to satisfy every employee's needs and expectations, but a vigorous exchange of change communications can help satisfy the needs of the majority of the employees. The risk communication plan should be communicated over diverse channels. FMC Technologies employees already receive information about company issues in a number of ways, and this plan will leverage the existing channels. In general, corporate communications department sends out e-blast emails to large groups or to the global group of employees when organizational announcements are made. In addition, the company posts announcements on the intranet. The company may also print large posters to post in common areas such as kitchens or break rooms to allow employees who do not regularly use computers to receive information. One of our more successful channels is the CEO's monthly blog, which updates employees about news or other important company information. FMCTI leadership also engages in face-to-face communication to disseminate organizational information by having the CEO present an annual company update presentation in person at various locations around the globe. Following his scripted presentation, John Gremp takes questions from employees and gives forthright answers. This two-way communication follows research findings which call for leaders to engage in face-to-face communication of important company changes. This risk communication plan will call for the communications department to launch a series of executive video communications with the executives together to show that Doug Furterhurt, current president and COO, is aligned with John Gremp's vision and that he cares about the company culture. The company will use the intranet and a dedicated email address as platforms to support employee queries, in addition to holding face-to-face town hall forums, so that employees can personally see the dynamics between the leaders and hear firsthand that CEO John Gremp is confident in Doug's ability to honor the company culture. The reason for this campaign is the rising exodus of employees at FMCTI. In order to monitor the trend of voluntarily exiting employees, we will compare resignations for 6 months following the campaign launch and 6 months following leadership change. These data sets will be separately and collectively compared to the number of resignations before the campaign and organizational change. We will also take anonymous employee surveys both before the CEO change and 6 months following. We will measure employee expectations of the transition and survey whether those expectations were met. Analyzing response rate and employee feedback will inform the success of this campaign. FMC Technologies will likely see the retirement of its beloved CEO in the next 12 to 18 months. Many employees are uncomfortable with the idea of a new CEO who isn't necessarily enmeshed with the company culture. In the past several weeks, a significant number of high potential and senior staff members have resigned to take positions with other companies in advance of the change of leadership. This trend is alarming, and it has the potential to create an organizational crisis if more competent and valuable employees exit the company. In order to reduce the possibility of mass exodus, FMCTI should amend its existing communications plan, crisis communications plan, to include a section for leadership change.